She was auctioned while preparing to give birth, but rancher buys her. Daisy was not like the other cows in the herd. She had a gentle nature and a calm way of moving that made everyone who saw her feel at ease. From the time she was a small calf, she had grown under the care of Mr. Opaz Thompson, a kind-hearted rancher who treated his animals like family. The ranch was not very big, but it was well kept. Green fields stretched for miles, dotted with fences and barns, and there were always enough trees to give shade in the hot summer months. Daisy loved wandering near the trees, chewing on the soft grass, and feeling the warm sun on her back. Mr. Thompson was a man of routine. Every morning he would wake up early before the sun rose. He would first go to the barn to check on all the cows. He knew every single one by name, by personality, and even by the little quirks they had. Daisy would always be there to greet him. She would come close, her soft eyes looking up at him, her tail flicking slowly. She had always trusted him, and there was a bond between them that was almost unspoken. This year was special, because Daisy was going to have her first calf. Everyone on the ranch could see it in the way she moved. She was slower sometimes, resting more than before, and she would stand quietly in the corner of the field, as if preparing for something very important. Mr. Thompson watched her carefully, knowing that soon she would bring a new life into the world. He had prepared a special space in the barn for her, a soft area with fresh hay where she could feel safe and comfortable. The other cows often played or wandered in the pastures, but Daisy seemed different. She would watch them for a while, then slowly wander off by herself. There was a quiet dignity in her movements. Sometimes she would stand on a little hill and look toward the horizon, as if she could see beyond the fields and fences. Mr. Thompson often smiled at her in these moments, feeling proud that he had raised such a special cow. Life on the ranch had always been simple but full of small joys. Each day the sun would rise over the hills, casting long shadows on the fields. Birds would sing from the trees, and the air would smell of fresh grass and hay. Mr. Thompson loved this life. He enjoyed the peace and the connection he had with the animals. He liked watching the seasons change, the bright greens of spring, the golden fields of summer, the red and orange leaves of fall, and the soft white snow of winter. Each season brought a new rhythm to the ranch, and Daisy was part of that rhythm. But one morning, everything started to feel different. A letter arrived from the local livestock office, sealed with an official stamp. Mr. Thompson opened it with a frown. The letter explained that several cows from his ranch, including Daisy, were being scheduled for auction. It was part of a government plan to reorganize livestock in the area. Normally, such letters would be a minor concern, but this one made Mr. Thompson's heart sink. He knew the auction meant that Daisy could end up far away, somewhere unknown, possibly in danger, especially because she was about to give birth. Mr. Thompson felt powerless. He tried to speak to the officials, to explain that Daisy was pregnant and needed care. He pleaded for some extra time, but the rules were strict. There was nothing he could do to stop the paperwork. The thought of Daisy being taken away made him feel a deep sadness that he could not shake. He walked to her pasture, feeling the cold wind on his face, and watched as Daisy grazed quietly. She seemed unaware of the letter, unaware of the fate that had been written for her. She looked peaceful, her soft brown eyes calm, her body strong but clearly heavy with the weight of the calf inside her. The days passed slowly, filled with worry. Mr. Thompson made sure that Daisy had the best care possible while she was still on the ranch. He checked her food, made sure her water was fresh, and spoke to her gently. Sometimes he would sit beside her in the field, stroking her soft fur and talking to her as if she could understand every word. Daisy would lean against him sometimes, her warmth comforting him in return. There was a quiet bond between them, a trust that could not be broken by papers or rules. Other people from the community began to hear about the auction. Some came to Mr. Thompson's ranch to see Daisy. They marveled at how gentle she was, how her movements had a calm rhythm, and how she seemed to have a quiet strength about her. "She is special," one neighbor said. "You can see it in the way she looks at you. She knows you care for her." These words gave Mr. Thompson a little hope. Maybe, he thought, someone kind would buy Daisy and take care of her the way she deserved. At the same time, the other cows sensed the tension. Animals have a way of feeling change, and Daisy was not an exception. She seemed more restless than ever. Some nights she would stand quietly, looking at the horizon, her body tense, her breathing slow but deliberate. Mr. Baller, a direct, Thompson stayed with her during these nights, worried that she might go into labor before she could be moved safely. He tried to keep her calm, speaking softly and keeping the other cows at a distance so she would not be disturbed. Even with all the care, Mr. Thompson could not hide the truth from Daisy. Something was coming that neither of them could stop. He knew the auction day was near, and with each passing moment, his worry grew. He could not bear the thought of Daisy being separated from him, being forced into a strange place, especially while she was pregnant. Yet, there was nothing he could do but hope. Hope that someone who understood her value and gentle nature would see her at the auction and buy her. As the day approached, the ranch felt different. The air was heavier, and the fields that had once seemed so peaceful now carried a quiet sadness. Daisy grazed quietly, but sometimes she would pause and look around as if she sensed the change in the world around her. The sun would rise and set, the birds would sing, but there was a tension that had not been there before. Mr. Pallas Thompson worked harder than ever, preparing her special area in the barn, making sure everything was perfect, hoping it might make a difference if someone kind did buy her. The community watched with concern as well. They knew Daisy, they knew her gentle nature, and they understood the danger of being sent to auction while heavily pregnant. People came to visit the ranch, offering support and advice. Some tried to help Mr. Thompson find a buyer before the auction, but nothing worked. The law was firm, and there was no way to change the scheduled date. Through all of this, Daisy remained calm in her own way. She moved slowly but steadily, ate her food and rested in the soft grass. There was a quiet strength in her that touched everyone who saw her. She seemed to understand in her own way that something important was about to happen. Her presence reminded everyone of the fragility of life and the responsibility humans have to protect those who cannot protect themselves. As the first frost of winter touched the fields, Mr. Thompson knew the auction was only a few days away. He could see the weight of the pregnancy on Daisy, the careful way she stepped, the way she rested more frequently. He could feel the connection between them, a bond that had grown over the years, and it hurt him to think of losing her. He spoke to her one evening, brushing her soft fur, whispering words of comfort that only he could give. Daisy leaned into him, her warm body pressing against his hands, and for a moment the world felt right again. But deep down, Mr. Thompson knew the reality. He could not change what was coming. All he could do was hope. Hope that someone kind would see Daisy for what she truly was, a gentle, strong, and extraordinary cow about to give life and make the right choice. The days passed slowly, each one filled with small moments of joy and quiet worry. The horizon glowed with the sunset, the air smelled of fresh grass and hay, and Daisy continued to live her life with dignity and calm, unaware of the uncertainty ahead. As night fell, Mr. Paris stopped by itself. Thompson stayed by her side, feeling the weight of responsibility and love. He whispered a promise to her, a promise that he would do everything he could to protect her. Daisy, in her gentle way, seemed to understand. She rested her head on his shoulder, the warmth of her body comforting him, giving him strength to face the days ahead. And in that quiet moment, under the stars and the soft moonlight, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the events that would soon change everything for Daisy and everyone who cared for her. The morning of the auction arrived with a chill in the air. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the fields in shades of pink and gold. Mr. Thompson woke earlier than usual, a heavy feeling pressing on his chest. He had spent nights worrying about Daisy, thinking about what might happen if she was sold to someone who did not understand her gentle nature. He fed the cows in silence, his hands moving quickly but carefully. Daisy stood nearby, her eyes calm, her movements slow but steady. She nuzzled his hand, as if sensing his worry and trying to give him comfort. The ranch felt quieter than usual that morning. The other cows grazed softly, sensing the tension in the air. They had lived through auctions before, and even though they did not fully understand them, they knew these days were different. Daisy, however, seemed especially aware that something important was happening. She moved with a certain hesitation, stopping occasionally to look around the fields. The soft wind blew through her fur, and she shook her head gently, as if trying to prepare herself for what was to come. Mr. Thompson loaded the cows into the trailer, moving carefully so that Daisy would not feel stressed. He spoke to her softly, telling her everything would be all right, even though he did not know if it would be. The trailer doors closed slowly, the metal echoing in the cold morning air. Daisy stepped inside, her hooves making soft sounds against the wooden floor. She looked at Mr. Balcham Thompson one last time, her eyes filled with calm trust, and he felt a lump in his throat. He had never felt so helpless in his life. The ride to the auction was long and bumpy. Daisy stood quietly, her body swaying slightly with the movement of the trailer. She had never been this far from the ranch, and the strange smells and sounds made her alert. Other cows in the trailer moved nervously, their low moos filling the air. Daisy, however, stayed calm, her strong and steady presence calming the other animals. Mr. Thompson kept checking on her through the small window, feeling a mixture of worry and hope. He reminded himself that perhaps someone kind would see her at the auction and give her the care she deserved. When they arrived at the auction yard, the place was filled with noise and activity. Farmers, ranchers, and buyers moved around, talking loudly, inspecting animals, and making deals. The smell of hay, animals, and dust filled the air. Daisy stepped carefully out of the trailer, guided by gentle hands. She looked around, taking in the sights and sounds, her ears flicking at every movement. She could feel the tension, the uncertainty, but she remained composed, as if she knew she had to face this challenge with quiet strength. The auction began in a large barn filled with people and animals. The sound of voices calling out prices echoed through the space. One by one, animals were led into the ring, their owners presenting them, buyers bidding, and decisions being made quickly. Daisy waited patiently, standing in a quiet corner, her eyes soft and alert. She could sense the excitement, the rush, and the pressure, but she did not panic. There was a certain grace in the way she held herself, a dignity that drew the attention of those nearby. When it was Daisy's turn, Mr. Thompson guided her into the auction ring. The barn went quiet for a moment as people looked at her. Daisy stood calmly, her body strong, her eyes gentle, and her presence commanding. The auctioneer began to speak, describing her age, her breed, and the fact that she was heavily pregnant. He mentioned her calm nature, her health, and the care she had received on the ranch. The crowd listened, some nodding, some whispering among themselves. Daisy's quiet strength seemed to speak for itself. Bidding started slowly. Several buyers looked at Daisy but moved on, uninterested in a pregnant cow. Mr. Thompson's heart sank with each passing moment. He could feel the worry building inside him, and he knew that Daisy's fate was uncertain. He whispered words of encouragement to her, stroking her head gently. Daisy leaned into him slightly, as if to tell him she understood, and her calm presence gave him a small sense of comfort. Hours passed, and the bidding grew more intense. Some buyers offered higher prices, others dropped out quickly. The tension in the barn was thick. Mr. Thompson could see the concern on people's faces, the anticipation in their movements, but he focused only on Daisy. He wanted her to go to a kind home, somewhere she would be safe and cared for. He could not imagine her anywhere else. Her life and the life of her unborn calf depended on the kindness of a stranger. Then, as if by chance, a new bidder appeared. A rancher from a nearby area stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Daisy. He was different from the others, calm, gentle, and attentive. He did not rush or shout. He observed Daisy carefully, noticing the way she moved, the way she looked around, and the quiet dignity she carried. He seemed to understand immediately that she was special. He placed a bid, and the auctioneer called it out. The other buyers hesitated, some dropping out, and slowly, the bidding moved in favor of the new rancher. Mr. Thompson watched with hope building in his chest. Daisy stood quietly, almost as if she recognized this man would care for her. The auctioneer continued to call out prices, the tension in the barn reaching its peak. Finally, after several moments of bidding, the gavel fell. Daisy had been bought by the kind rancher. Relief and joy washed over Mr. Job Thompson. Tears came to his eyes as he realized that Daisy would be safe, that her gentle nature would be respected, and that her unborn calf would have a chance to grow in a loving environment. The rancher stepped forward, speaking softly to Daisy. He reached out, and she allowed him to touch her, leaning into his hand. There was a quiet understanding between them, a connection that needed no words. The kind rancher smiled, knowing that he had made the right choice. He guided Daisy out of the auction ring carefully, speaking gently to her, making sure she felt safe. Mr. Thompson followed, making sure everything went smoothly. As Daisy was loaded onto the new trailer, she looked back one last time at Mr. Thompson. Her eyes were calm, her presence steady, and there was a sense of trust in the way she looked at him. Mr. Thompson whispered goodbye, telling her she would be safe, that she would have a good life, and that she would always be remembered. Daisy's tail flicked slowly, a quiet gesture of acknowledgement, and she stepped into the trailer with the kind rancher. The ride to her new home was different from the auction. The air felt calmer, the atmosphere gentler. Daisy sensed the difference. The rancher spoke softly to her, stroked her head, and made sure she was comfortable. The other cows in the trailer were calm as well, and Daisy moved among them with grace and confidence. She had faced uncertainty and fear, but now she was on a path to safety and care. When they arrived at the new ranch, Daisy was led to a spacious pasture filled with green grass, shade trees, and a small barn prepared for her arrival. She stepped slowly, exploring the new surroundings with curiosity and care. A kind rancher watched her closely, making sure she had everything she needed. Daisy seemed to relax in her new home, her body moving with comfort and ease. For the first time in days, she felt completely safe. Mr. Thompson stayed until Daisy had settled in. He watched her from a distance, seeing her move with calm grace, her eyes alert but peaceful. He felt a deep sense of relief and joy, knowing that she would be well cared for, that her calf would have a safe place to grow, and that her gentle nature would be appreciated. He whispered a quiet farewell, thanking her for the trust she had shown and the bond they had shared. Daisy flicked her tail once, a simple gesture, and then turned to explore her new home. That night, as the stars shone brightly in the sky, Daisy rested in the soft grass near the barn. She felt the warmth of the earth beneath her, the gentle rustle of leaves in the trees, and the calm presence of the kind rancher nearby. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and the unknown, but she had come through it with dignity and grace. Her journey had been difficult, but it had led her to a place of safety, care, and love. The day at the auction became a turning point not only for Daisy, but for everyone who witnessed it. It was a reminder that kindness exists even in the busiest and most stressful places, that gentle hearts are recognized, and that care and compassion can change lives. Daisy, the pregnant cow with calm eyes and quiet strength, had found her safe haven. She had faced the auction with courage, and now she was ready to begin the next chapter of her life, bringing new life into the world in a place where she would be valued and loved. Daisy's new home was unlike anything she had ever known. The pasture was wide and open, with soft green grass that stretched farther than her eyes could see. There were a few large trees for shade, and a small, clean barn had been prepared just for her. The kind rancher, whose name was Mr. Harris, had spent weeks making sure everything was perfect. He knew Daisy was about to give birth and wanted her to feel safe, comfortable, and calm. At first, Daisy was cautious. She walked slowly across the new field, her hooves sinking slightly into the soft ground. She sniffed the air, taking in all the new smells, the fresh grass, the hay in the barn, and even the faint smell of Mr. Harris, who followed her carefully, speaking in soft tones. Daisy had learned to trust humans, but this was a new place, and she needed time to adjust. She wandered slowly, exploring the corners of the pasture, pausing near the small pond to drink. The water was cool and clear, and she dipped her muzzle carefully, enjoying the freshness. The other cows in the pasture were friendly and curious. They approached her slowly, sniffing her gently. Daisy remained calm, her gentle presence putting them at ease. She realized that this was a safe place, a place where she could rest, eat, and prepare for the important task ahead, bringing her calf into the world. Mr. Harris watched her closely, making sure she was comfortable and showing patience as she explored her new home. Days passed, and Daisy began to settle in. She found her favorite spots in the pasture, where the grass was soft and the sun warmed her back. She would stand under the shade of the large oak trees during the hot afternoons and rest in the barn at night on the soft hay Mr. Harris had prepared. He visited her several times a day, feeding her, checking her health, and speaking gently to her. Daisy responded with quiet affection, leaning her head against him when he approached, trusting him completely. Even though Daisy was adjusting well, there were challenges. Being heavily pregnant was not easy. Her body was tired from carrying the calf, and she sometimes felt sore or uncomfortable. She would pace slowly across the field, stopping to rest, and sometimes she would lie down for longer than usual. Mr. Harris noticed these changes and made sure she had extra care. He would bring her warm water, add fresh hay to her barn space, and talked to her in soothing tones. Daisy seemed to sense his concern and responded with calm behavior, making it easier for him to help her. The first few nights in the new pasture were difficult. Daisy sometimes felt restless and would stand under the stars, looking at the wide sky. The sounds were different here, the soft rustle of the leaves, the distant call of owls, and the gentle sigh of the wind through the trees. She had never been so far from the ranch she had known, and although she felt safe, there was a quiet tension in the air. Mr. Harris stayed close, sitting just outside the barn, watching over her. He did not sleep much, making sure that Daisy could rest and feel secure. As the days went on, Daisy began to develop a routine. She would eat in the morning, wander slowly in the field, drink from the pond, and rest under the shade of the trees. She spent long afternoons lying in the soft grass, letting the warmth of the sun comfort her tired body. Mr. Harris would check on her frequently, sometimes brushing her soft coat, speaking to her in gentle words, and making sure she was comfortable. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. Daisy seemed to understand that she was in a safe place, where her needs mattered and her comfort was a priority. However, not everything was easy. One morning, Daisy felt a sudden discomfort that made her stop in the middle of the field. She shifted her weight, pawed at the soft ground, and let out a low, gentle moo. Mr. Harris rushed over immediately, concern etched on his face. He knelt beside her, examining her carefully. Daisy was about to go into labor. The moment was tense, filled with quiet anticipation. Mr. Joey Harris had been prepared for this day, but he felt the weight of responsibility. Daisy had carried her calf safely this far, and now it was time for the next step. He guided Daisy to the barn, speaking softly and soothingly. She walked slowly, leaning into his gentle touch. The other cows watched quietly, sensing that something important was happening. Daisy's movements were careful and deliberate, her body preparing for the arrival of her calf. Mr. Harris adjusted the soft hay, making sure there was space for her to lie down comfortably. He knew the process could be long and exhausting, but he also knew that Daisy was strong and capable. Labor was not easy. Daisy moved slowly, pacing a little, then lying down, then standing again. Her breathing became deeper, her eyes focused. Mr. Harris stayed by her side, offering calm reassurance. He spoke softly, telling her she was strong and brave, that her calf would soon arrive, and that she was safe. Daisy seemed to respond to his voice, leaning slightly toward him when she could, trusting him completely. Hours passed. The barn was quiet except for the sound of Daisy's movements and the soft creak of the wooden floor. Mr. Harris stayed alert, watching her closely, making sure everything went smoothly. He was ready to assist if needed, but he also knew the importance of letting nature take its course. Daisy's strength and patience were remarkable. Despite the discomfort, she remained calm and composed, her dignity intact. Finally, the moment came. With a final effort, Daisy gave birth to a healthy, strong calf. The little one stood unsteadily on wobbly legs, and Daisy immediately nuzzled it with gentle care. She licked the calf, cleaned it, and helped it find its first nourishment. The bond between mother and calf was instant and powerful. Mr. Harris watched with a smile, feeling deep joy and relief. He knew the long wait and worry had been worth it. Daisy's calm nature had guided her through the process, and now she had a beautiful, healthy calf to show for it. The other cows gathered nearby, curious and respectful. Daisy's presence had always been special among them, and now, as a mother, she carried herself with even more grace and pride. The barn was filled with a quiet warmth, the soft sound of the calf's calls, the gentle licks of Daisy, and the calm presence of Mr. Harris. The moment was peaceful, full of life and hope. In the days that followed, Daisy adapted to life as a mother. She taught her calf to walk, graze, and respond to gentle guidance. She was patient and protective, always keeping the calf close. Mr. Harris continued to care for both of them, ensuring that they had everything they needed. The pasture, once intimidating and new, became a safe playground for mother and child. Daisy's strength, patience, and calmness helped her calf grow quickly, and soon the little one was running and exploring alongside her under the warm sun. Despite the challenges she faced during labor and the adjustment to a new home, Daisy thrived. She had faced uncertainty and fear, but her resilience, trust, and calm nature helped her navigate these difficult times. Her bond with Mr. Harris grew stronger, and the pasture became a place of joy, safety, and growth. Daisy's story spread quietly among the nearby ranchers. People who visited the area heard about the gentle cow who had been auctioned, but found safety and gave birth to a strong, healthy calf. Her tale became an example of patience, trust, and the kindness of those who cared for animals. It reminded everyone that with gentle care and attention, even the most uncertain situations could lead to joy and hope. By the time the first snowfall of the season arrived, Daisy and her calf were thriving. She stood proudly in the pasture, the little one close by her side, and the soft snow covering the fields around them. Mr. Harris watched them from the barn, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Daisy had faced challenges, adjusted to a new home, and brought new life into the world. Her journey was far from ordinary, but she had emerged strong, calm, and filled with love for her calf. And in the quiet moments, under the soft glow of the morning sun or the twinkling stars at night, Daisy stood tall, her gentle eyes full of wisdom and strength. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and change, yet she had found her place in the world, a place where she was safe, valued, and loved. Winter had fully arrived at the ranch, and the fields were covered in a soft white blanket of snow. The wind blew gently through the trees, and the sun's light reflected off the frost, making the world look bright and magical. Daisy stood in her pasture, her calf close by her side, both of them healthy and strong. Life had changed so much for them since the day of the auction, yet this change had brought safety, love, and a new beginning. Daisy's bond with her calf grew stronger with every passing day. She taught the little one how to walk steadily on the slippery ground, how to find the tender grass beneath the snow, and how to stay close when the cold wind blew. Her gentle nature and patience guided the calf, helping it gain strength, confidence, and independence. Mr. Brazar. Harris watched them closely, feeling proud of the resilience Daisy had shown. The pasture that once seemed new and uncertain had now become a home full of life, warmth, and quiet beauty. Even with the cold weather, Daisy's daily routine remained calm and steady. In the mornings, she would eat first, making sure her calf had enough to nibble on. She would then lead the little one around the field, helping it exercise its legs and grow strong. In the afternoons, they rested under the shade of the large trees, taking in the sunlight whenever it peeked through the clouds. At night, they would return to the warm barn, lying on the soft hay while Mr. Harris ensured they were comfortable. Each day brought the same simple routine, but it was a routine filled with care, love, and trust. However, life was not without challenges. One morning, Mr. Harris noticed Daisy moving slower than usual. She seemed slightly tired, and her steps were careful as she walked across the snow-covered pasture. Concern filled his heart, and he approached her gently, speaking in a soft, calming voice. Daisy looked up, her eyes warm and trusting. She nuzzled his hand as if to reassure him that she was okay, but her body gave a subtle warning. He knew she needed extra care and attention that day. Mr. Harris spent the day making sure Daisy and her calf had everything they needed. He brought extra hay, fresh water, and even a small blanket of straw near the barn entrance to make their walk less slippery. Daisy responded to his care with calm grace. She guided her calf carefully, helping it avoid icy patches and teaching it how to move safely. It was clear that Daisy's strength and wisdom were growing as she continued to face challenges and protect her young one. As the days passed, the bond between mother and calf continued to deepen. The calf began to explore more of the pasture, sometimes wandering a little farther from Daisy, but always returning when called. Daisy's watchful eyes never left the little one for long, and her soft moos served as gentle reminders to stay close. She had transformed from a frightened, auctioned cow into a confident mother, fully aware of her responsibilities and the love she had for her calf. One day, a group of local ranchers came to visit Mr. Cobb, Harris's farm. They had heard Daisy's story and were curious to see her in person. As they arrived, Daisy stood proudly with her calf, moving gracefully through the snow. The ranchers were impressed by her calm demeanor and the care she gave to her young one. They praised Mr. Harris for taking the time to ensure that Daisy had a safe and loving environment. Daisy's story spread even further that day, inspiring others to care for their animals with patience, compassion, and understanding. Despite the admiration from visitors, Daisy never changed her gentle behavior. She remained humble, calm, and focused on her calf. She spent her days teaching it, guiding it, and keeping it safe. Even when small challenges arose, a fallen branch, a sudden gust of wind, or slippery ice, Daisy handled them with quiet strength. Her ability to stay composed and patient showed that she had grown into a remarkable mother, one who understood the world and her place within it. Winter eventually gave way to early spring. The snow melted, and fresh green grass began to sprout in the pastures. The days grew longer, and the sunlight warmed the field. Daisy and her calf enjoyed exploring the open space, running through the soft grass, and playing near the pond. The calf grew stronger each day, learning how to navigate the world with the guidance of its mother. Daisy remained a calm and patient teacher, helping the little one develop confidence, independence, and curiosity. Miss Harris often observed them from a distance, his heart full of pride and happiness. He knew that the bond between Daisy and her calf was something special. It was built on trust, patience, and care. Daisy had overcome fear, uncertainty, and the challenge of being auctioned, and now she was thriving in a loving environment. Her journey had been difficult, but it had led to safety, love, and new life. As the season continued, Daisy and her calf became a symbol of hope for the ranch. People who visited would watch them moving together in the pasture, a mother teaching and protecting her young. Daisy's calm eyes and gentle behavior left a lasting impression. Her story reminded everyone who saw her that resilience, trust, and care could overcome even the most difficult challenges. She had faced uncertainty at the auction, yet she had found a place where she could thrive and nurture life. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow across the pasture, Daisy stood with her calf by the edge of the pond. The little one looked up at her with curiosity and admiration. Daisy nuzzled it gently, her soft eyes full of love and pride. She had taught it well, and the bond between them was unbreakable. Mr. Harris watched quietly, feeling grateful that he had been part of this journey. He had witnessed a story of trust, resilience, and love unfold before his eyes. As night fell, Daisy and her calf returned to the barn. The soft hay cradled them as they rested, the quiet sounds of the night surrounding them. Daisy's eyes slowly closed, but her body remained alert, ready to protect and care for her young one. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and challenges, yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and filled with love. Her journey had been long and difficult, but it had led her to a place of safety, comfort, and happiness. In the weeks and months that followed, Daisy continued to thrive. Her calf grew strong and healthy, learning from her guidance and the safe environment Mr. Harris had provided. The bond between them remained unshakable, a perfect example of patience, love, and resilience. Daisy's story became known throughout the ranching community, a tale of hope, courage, and the power of kindness. By the time summer arrived, Daisy and her calf were fully at home in the pasture. The grass was tall and green, the pond reflected the clear blue sky, and the trees offered shade and shelter. Daisy moved gracefully among the fields, teaching her calf to explore, graze, and enjoy the beauty of the world around them. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and challenge, yet she had found her place, her purpose, and her peace. Daisy's life had changed completely since the day she was auctioned. From a moment of fear and uncertainty, she had grown into a strong, gentle, and patient mother. She had nurtured her calf with love and care, guided by trust and resilience. The bond she shared with her calf was a reminder of the beauty of life, the importance of compassion, and the power of hope. And so, in the peaceful fields of Mr. Capet's Harris's ranch, Daisy and her calf thrived. They moved together through the pasture, under the warm sun and the open sky. The days were filled with calm, the nights with safety and comfort, and the bond between mother and child remained strong and unbroken. Daisy's journey had been extraordinary, yet it ended with quiet beauty, love, and the promise of new life. In the soft glow of the sunset, with the calf resting close to her side, Daisy stood tall, her eyes calm and full of wisdom. She had faced fear, change, and the unknown, yet she had found a safe place, a loving home, and a chance to give life and care to another. Her story, simple yet powerful, reminded everyone who knew it that kindness, patience, and trust could overcome the greatest challenges, and that love could create miracles, even in the most uncertain of times. Daisy and her calf were no longer just animals in a pasture. They were a symbol of hope, resilience, and the quiet strength that comes from trust, care, and love. And as the stars appeared in the night sky, casting a soft silver light across the fields, Daisy rested, knowing that she was safe, her calf was safe, and their future was full of promise.